clearly that was planned. I mean, Trudeau knew what he was doing.
He has power. He has authority. People obey him.
With Justin Trudeau, in fact, he flew to Mar-a-Lago within about 15 seconds after the call ended.
That I am, and always will be, a proud feminist.
I want to bring in Tom Mulcair now. He's CTV's political commentator and the former leader of the NDP. Tom, perfect timing. Great to see you this morning. Let's pick up.
Good to be with you, Marcia.
Let's pick up where Premier Ford left off there. He is, doubling down on the fact that this would be a last resort, but he needs to send the message loud and clear, and he's taking out ads on behalf of Ontario, to Americans that these tariffs are a no-go.
Good morning, everyone.
For the second day in a row, Ontario Premier Duoug Ford reiterated his threat to cut off energy supply to the U.S. in retaliation to Donald Trump's proposed tariffs.
You come and attack Ontario, you attack livelihoods of people of Ontario and Canadians. We're going to use every tool in our toolbox to defend Ontarians and Canadians across the border.
Can Premier Ford do this? How does this look when the Prime Minister wants to have this unified approach? We've got Premier Ford coming out. What do you make of it all and how effective the message is?
Well, I'll start with your very last question, Marcia. I think that Duoug Ford's messages are quite effective. I think it's well placed, and he has every right to do so. He's the premier of an important province that does have deep connections in all sorts of industries, and indeed, with regard to energy, with the United States. So he's pleading his case mostly stateside, and he has every right to do that. At the same time, you'd have to be naive not to note that everything that he's doing now is related to what he intends to do, which is call an early election. He's made that clear. The people around him have made that clear. They're going early, and they're going early because they sense that the potential, and indeed likely, arrival of a Poilievre government might mean tough times for Ontario. So he wants to get ahead of that one. But to the simple question, he's taking a different approach, either from his sister province of Quebec has taken a much more conciliatory approach. Premier Legault got a chance to meet and talk with Donald Trump for 10 minutes in Paris last weekend.
François Legault cited his meeting with Trump last week in Paris.
And he told me very clearly that we can avoid those tariffs if we do what needs to be done with the borders.
Which is the focus of a new announcement from Alberta Premier Danielle Smith today, a team of specially trained Alberta sheriffs that will patrol the border, more than 50 officers, K-9 teams, and cold weather surveillance drones to stop illegal cross-border activity.
And he's very concerned. He's taking this very seriously. Quebec also, very much like Ontario, has deep connections, including with energy. So he's taking a different approach. He's been pushing Trudeau hard to come up with an approach that satisfies all the provinces. Now, with regard to Trudeau, there is one thing that came out at that meeting last night. Several premiers, I am told, on background, expressed their deep misgivings with Mr. Trudeau's shot against the election of Trump and his talking about the fact that it would have been much better if Kamala Harris had won.
No, it shouldn't be that way. It wasn't supposed to be that way. We were supposed to be on a steady, if difficult sometimes, march towards progress. And yet, just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president. Everywhere, women's rights and women's progress is under attack, overtly and subtly. But I want you to know that I am, and always will be, a proud feminist. You will always have an ally in me and in my government.
Now, I happen to agree with that, but I'm a pundit. I'm an analyst. I'm a person who has opinions. But he's the Prime Minister of Canada, and he's got to deal with this Grinch called Donald Trump.
Trump responded to Ford's threat today, saying this.
Well, that's okay if he does that. That's fine. But the United States is subsidizing Canada. It's truly a subsidy. And we shouldn't have to do that.
And I thought it was singularly unwise for him to have done that. And it's very hard to find what the upside would have been for Trudeau to have gone that way. And a lot of premiers were indeed upset with him.
But to that last point, Tom, clearly that was planned. I mean, Trudeau knew
Yes.
what he was doing. And I was even thinking the other day, I don't know if you caught it, when he was talking about President-elect Trump, he referred to him as Donald. I think that was in Halifax. So there's sort of a loosening of the language there. What does that signal to you about perhaps a different approach from the Prime Minister in dealing with President-elect Trump?
Well, a lot of people criticize Trudeau's desire to get down to Mar-a-Lago so quickly. I think he did it well. Even though Trump essentially boasted about it on NBC over the weekend. He was on Meet the Press, and what did he say? He says, Trudeau was down here 15 seconds after I had tweeted about the tariffs, and he loves tariffs.
With Justin Trudeau. In fact, he flew to Mar-a-Lago within about 15 seconds after the call ended. Yeah.
What he was doing was boasting that he has power, he has authority, people obey him, they're at his beck and call. I think Trudeau did the right thing because they knew that about the mentality of Donald Trump. He's boastful, he's full of himself, he likes to say that he's in charge and he's the one making other people jump when he says so. Trudeau played that well. Using the first name, a little bit more of the same. But in that case, how do we explain that part of his speech? Now, you're quite right. He was reading from a prepared text. The only plausible explanation that's been given to me by somebody in the know, and it's something that I agree with, that Trudeau might decide not to stick around for the next election. He was teeing it up. If you look at all those sentences together, he was pleading for women in leadership roles in politics. Now, the only party in Ottawa, there's 5 parties in the House of Commons, the only one that's never had a woman leader is the Liberals. Trudeau defeated 4 women for the leadership the last time. So is he trying to set it up so that he could plead, for example, for either Melanie Joly or Chrystia Freeland to be his eventual replacement, if indeed he does step down? And I repeat, I sincerely believe that that's what he's planning to do. I don't see him sticking around, not with everything that's happening right now.
And other provinces seem unwilling to withhold their energy from U.S. markets.
From the Alberta perspective, under no circumstances will Alberta agree to cut off oil and gas exports.
By the way, I won't threat Donald not to send electricity.
The disagreement between provinces goes even deeper. Last night, Premier Ford said he is convinced Canada will not escape U.S. tariffs.
If we succeed and maintain proper border security, I expect we will have a very strong relationship with the United States, as we always have.
Ottawa is said to have presented a plan to strengthen the border during yesterday's meeting with the premiers, a plan that is expected to be presented publicly in the coming days. Marcia?
Jeremy, thanks.